What's up, guys? Welcome to Forgemaster Metal Reviews, the place where you get the most out of your metal releases, artists and metal fans alike. I am your co-host, Ben Fow.
Brandon here. Great to see you guys. It's that time of year where we round up all of our favorite metal albums in a subgenre, and this time we're hitting the bloody battlefields of some groovy death metal.
Make sure to Spotify us. Make sure to follow us on Spotify. Link is in the description. So you can get all of these playlists and check out these bands. And hey, if you like metal content like this, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us continue to bring you more content exactly like this.
Spacey death metal, old death metal dudes who still got it, and the most disgusting and brutal riffs. Let's get to the best death metal albums of 2021 so far. Iotunn Access All Worlds, released February 26th on Metal Blade Records. I am not sure if the subgenre of cosmic progressive melodic death metal exists in the metal genre, but it does now. I have not heard Iotunn before their 2021 release of Access All Worlds. Holy shit though, this album is all sorts of epic. This album freaking slays. This record is absolutely majestic in composition and structure, and I don't really have any other way to describe it. The record is an endless journey of the cosmos and embracing sci-fi narratives to the fullest extent. Soaring through the stars on a spaceship ready to venture through the end of time. Clean vocals alongside emotive harsh vocals are wonderfully unique, add a ton of dynamics to what would otherwise sound a kind of run-of-the-mill melodic death metal record in my opinion. Great guitar riffs, awesome solos, effects, drumming, all that stuff is absolutely on point. Highly impressive death metal record against a sci-fi narrative. The production on this album is the only ding I think I would give this album, as I kind of feel like the mix and master is a little bit flat. There's not a lot of dynamics with how dynamic this music really is, but the songs are awesome. This album is a must listen for any progressive death metal fan and sci-fi nerds alike. 4.8 out of 5 Ominous Planets.
So for many of today's albums, we have some overlap here in the death metal category, which is no problem at all. All of these are great picks, but I'm very happy to be talking here today about one of these overlaps, which is Cannibal Corpse's Violence Unimagined. It shouldn't take much convincing for us to tell you that Cannibal Corpse has made a strong return to form with this year's release. This is a band that you know is likely past their prime, hate to say it, but you still want to root for them and hope that they release strong records at the end of their career instead of going out with a pathetic whimper like some death metal bands have. It's just a sad state of affairs when a vicious death metal band sees the end, puts out one last record, and it's absolute crap. I don't think that's in Cannibal Corpse's cards, especially after they have showcased that they still got it with Violence Unimagined. It's the riffs, it's the vocals, it's the true feeling of what death metal had been when the band first started. Fantastic record, and I'm sure we'll be seeing it at the end of this year's list. 4.6 out of 5 Bloodthirsty Murderers.
Asphyx, Necroceros, released January 22nd, 2021. I love when bands stick around for decades and absolutely still crush it with killer records. These Dutch death doom masters, say that 5 times fast, are still crafting absolutely devastating riffs after 30 years and spanning 10 full-length records, bursting with filth, creativity, and grime. Necroceros is exactly what you would expect from the band in the best possible way. Relentless and filthy death metal fury with brutal rhythms meets the stone cold world of monolithic groove and doom. One of my favorite aspects of this record is the band and producer decided to keep as much of the human elements as possible. You can hear small tempo fluctuations, even some mistakes here and there, slight movements in the guitar. Nothing here is made overly pristine, and that makes this record sound very unique in such a overproduced landscape of death metal nowadays. My only gripe with this record though is there are a couple seemingly filler songs, but goddamn is this record a death doom delight to discover and revisit throughout all of this year. A fantastic old school death doom record that you should not miss. 4.5 out of 5 Green Ghoulie Faces.
Brandon brought Suffering Hours, the Cyclic Reckoning to our attention at the beginning of the year on an episode of Underground Spotlight. This is the only blackened death metal band on my list, so I think it stands out on its own in that regard. Profound Lore Records currently hosts this band, and I think they're a perfect label for Suffering Hour to be attached to. There are some wild riffs on this album, and that's the thing that really stood out to me. It's a cool blend of black metal and death metal. I also really loved the gritty and unique production. You can hear a bit of tape wobble. The overall master has just this really gross analog feel to it. The Cyclic Reckoning gets 4.5 out of 5 naked guys at Burning Man.
Humanity's Last Breath, Valde, released February 12th on Unique Leader Records. Humanity's Last Breath have released one of the most mind-blowing albums of this year. Yes, that's still true. And I discovered this band on my Brandon Checks Out Deathcore series a while ago. Every single track released ahead of this monster of an album has been nothing short of fucking brutal, devastating, and beautifully hopeless. This album has created one of the most crushingly thought-provoking and dreary soundscapes for a death metal record that I have ever heard. This is a lot more than a deathcore album filled with breakdowns. Sure, that payoff is in there, but there is far more to appreciate. The album is bleak, atmospheric, and nihilistic in its purest form. Composer and producer Buster Odholm of Stockholm, Sweden, and Impact Studios with his band have created some of the most impressive and dark sonicascapes, embracing anticipation, orchestration, and other genres such as black metal on Valde. My own personal opinion, I wish the band used a different visual artist for the album art. There is no slight whatsoever to Mariusz Lewandowski. He's an otherworldly, amazing painter. I just think that the metal bands nowadays are using his work a little bit too much. Not their fault. I'm not going to ding them for that. This album is essential listening for atmospheric death metal fans. 4.6 out of 5 Cosmic Walls.
This is my favorite album out of all of these, Fractal Generator's Macrocosmos. It was completely overlooked by us until the absolute last minute, and we didn't really get an opportunity to talk about it. It was released back in January on Everlasting Spew Records. This album is exactly what technical death metal has needed in the last decade or so. It is reminiscent of mid-era Decapitated, where technical chops are put aside for riff worship and utterly devastating heaviness. At 9 tracks and a total runtime of about 42 minutes, this record is perfectly paced and leaves you feeling absolutely torn apart when it's finished. But like a great amusement park ride, you just want to hop back on again and again and again until you throw up all over yourself. Show me a better tech death metal album this year. I don't think you will. This is a perfect score for me. 5 out of 5 emerging black holes.
Stortregn, Impermanence, released on the Artisan Era on March 12th. My first time around the block with this album left my mind completely fucking blown open with the sheer technical and songwriting brilliance that is showcased on this album. Swiss-based Stortregn, it's badass to see a Swiss metal band, by the way. Being a physics nerd, and the only thing in Geneva, Switzerland that I know being a metal and science nerd is the Large Hadron Collider, so it's really cool to see a metal band from the area. The amount of genre-bending wizardry on this record is completely staggering, and it makes this record very hard to quantify under one holistic subgenre, but it's definitely death metal. Out of all of the tracks on Impermanence, the listener goes on an intense journey through black death, heavy, classic rock, and metal, tech death, but what I love though is their ability to balance showmanship with excellent songwriting and addictive melodies. Stortregn have a godlike ability to switch metal genres on a dime and make those transitions feel completely buttery smooth. The album is a journey from relentless technical extreme metal to melodic and relaxing acoustic sections, and I found myself constantly revisiting this record throughout the year and discovering new gems in the music that I missed previously. This record is a complete masterpiece, easily will make it to the end of the year list for me. Do not sleep on this album if you haven't checked it out yet. 4.8 out of 5 Swirling Voids.
Whenever you take your name from a Warhammer weapon, you have to be a death metal band. Polish death metalers Chainsword fit right into that category, and their February release of Blight March has certainly stood up to deserve its spot here today on our best death metal of the year so far. This is grimy bolt thrower worship in its finest form. Much like last year's release of Charred Fields of Slaughter by Bear Mace, Chainsword is just original enough to keep me headbanging and grooving as they pull off moves from the Bolt Thrower and Dismember playbooks. This is a strong debut from a band that is entering a ruthlessly competitive subgenre. Let's see how long the Chainsword will remain sharp for. Blight March is worthy of 4.5 out of 5 MG42 positions.
Crypts of Despair, All Light Swallowed, released April 23rd on Transcending Obscurity Records. I've said it so many times on this channel, and I'm gonna keep fucking saying it. Transcending Obscurity Records can do no wrong when it comes to their metal roster. They find the filthiest and heaviest bands ranging from doom to death metal, and Crypts of Despair are one of the most exciting bands on their roster to release something this year. Hailing from Lithuania, death metal band Crypts of Despair have released one of the most ungodly and filthy records devoid of all hope. All Light Swallowed is an old school death metal album at heart, but the production is a little bit more on the modern side, favoring the dirtier side of atmosphere in the subgenre. The album is perfectly dark, wonderfully bleak, and the album artwork by Nestor Avalos perfectly captures the atmosphere within the record. All Light Swallowed is full of breakneck riffs, sadistic and catchy melodies, and gloomy vibes rooted in the slower doom sections. The vocals on this album are harrowing and completely obliterate the listener with their dual vocal approach of guttural lows and anguish-filled high screams. For some reason, I don't know why, this year I've just been really enjoying death metal, and Transcending Obscurity are just completely flooding my playlist with some of the best music in the genre. They've got some awesome merch in the form of vinyls and digipacks. I'm sure some of it's sold out by now, but you absolutely want to own this vinyl if you are a death metal collector. Bone chilling and crushing. You have to get on this record if you like old school death. 4.7 out of 5 Mounds of Death.
What are your favorite death metal albums from 2021 so far? Let us know in the comments down below.
As always, go with the gods, our Forgemaster brethren. Don't get lost in the chapel of ghouls. See you guys next time.